welcome back to Our Issues Hampton Roads. I'm your host, Rae Pearson. With me today are Executive Director Gary Anderson and Executive Assistant Mike Dillender from All District Reads, an initiative that understands the value of literacy in the life of an individual and the community as a whole. I wanted to ask you, when you don't read, or when you can't read, or when you feel that you're not on par, what type of, individually robbing things, having that issue, and then overall, how does that affect the community as a whole?
That's a great question. And if you can't read in school, you fail. And we're not set up to take but so much failure. Success breeds success. Let me back up for a minute. So when I became a school psychologist in the 70s and 80s, I worked in two small counties.
Okay.
And I was the only school psychologist. I was a lone ranger. So I evaluated many children in first grade, then I followed them through to fourth grade, evaluated them there, then in middle school, and then in ninth grade. A school psychologist is the only position in the school system that actually follows students through the grades. And I saw this pattern again and again, that children came with these big smiles in kindergarten and preschool. Well, in first grade, they weren't catching on. And second grade, a lot of times they failed. And then by third and fourth grade, they started to develop an attitude a little bit. They didn't like school. You talk with them. And then you take that and then you add 5 more years of school to it. Before long, you hate school. I used to talk to them, you hate school. How's school going, all right? And how do you really like school? I hate school. And I heard that so many times, it just didn't seem fair that they were knocked out of the picture. So if somebody drops out of school and doesn't have a skill set, it doesn't look well for them. They're going to go to the streets, get in trouble. That pattern is so predictable when they fail kindergarten, first, second, repeat a year. By the time they're in the third grade, and there's lots of studies that show that the children who fail in the third grade have a high chance of ending up in some kind of correctional institute.
I read something about that where it talked about how well a child is doing by the third grade is a predictor of how well he or she will do in life. And so can I ask you this, because our audience is Hampton Roads, a little bit outside of Hampton Roads on the outskirts. How does our community stack up against those national stats? Because those things that I talked about off the top, those numbers, those are startling.
Yes.
Either one of them.
Yeah. We're essentially, it's not a good news story. I mean, we're on par. Virginia as a whole and Hampton Roads area and nationally, the numbers really, despite all these different programs that have been attempted at kind of the macro level, like No Child Left Behind and those type of programs, the billions of dollars that have gone into that, the reading scores have not gone up. If you look across the years, it's essentially a flat line. So we're not making any progress. And what Gary and I both believe, and a lot of people are starting to drink our Kool-Aid, so to speak, is that this program can be a real game changer in getting those numbers up. And we don't really care about the numbers as much as we do about the impact in children's lives.
Right. I would like to explain what our program is. It's so simple. So we take on a school system. It's called All District Reads. That means that all the elementary students in any division that adopts our program are given the same novel, such as Charlotte's Web. So in Norfolk right now, that we're getting ready to do our third book, they got 15,000 copies of Ways to Make Sunshine. This last. So every student, every elementary student, every kindergartner, every preschooler, kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth grade, they got the book. And then the superintendent comes on and reads the first chapter aloud to all the children, all 15,000 of them. They're in assemblies in their schools. Then they take it home. And then they have a cell phone, and on that cell phone there's an audio version of the book. So maybe they sit down with their parents and they hit that audio version and they all listen to the first chapter again. It's a listening program, but they have their own copy in their hand.
So it's a read along too.
Yes, you can read along, but the big thing is listening and asking questions. What does that mean? How is that going to happen? So then they get to school the next day and there's trivia questions and there's activities about the chapter. This goes on for the whole month. Night after night, there's fun, there's no book reports, and it's family oriented in the home.
Yes.
This is very unique. It's so simple, but it has such a dramatic impact because it's the whole family in their home.
That's what I was going to say. It engages everyone.
Yes.
It's the buzz on the school bus on the way into school. Everybody's
Wow.
talking about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
now you know you've done something when you've created buzz with kids outside of the assignment, right?
I would like to share one story since Mike mentioned the buzz. We had and I've worked with principals, again, in education. So this one principal said, I have a story for you, Gary. And he said, I have a bus driver. She's been driving the bus for 25 years. But we started this program, and she took the book home. Her granddaughter did, because she lives with her grandmother. And she said, Grams, can you read the first chapter? So I can read. So she said, I read the first chapter. But then when I got on the bus the next day, all of the children in the bus knew about this chapter. So we had a book discussion. And,
Wow.
and we've been doing this now, Steve, for 2 weeks. And so she went into the principal and said, I've been transporting children for 25 years, but now I'm part of their education. Here's the rest of that story. It's a true story. So then her husband was over here at Centera, was getting some kind of cancer treatments, so she had to miss driving the bus for 3 days. The substitute bus driver went in the bus, looked on the seat, and there was a book which she had said, you're going to cover these chapters and here's your discussion questions, to the substitute bus driver. That's those kind of questions, because this encompasses the whole community, and it's fun, and children love it. They talk about it, the buzz, like Mike said. It ends up being the buzz in the whole community. We had a Pizza Hut, and one family was in the Pizza Hut on Friday night, and they mentioned the book. So the story, 6 families gathered around, were talking about the book. They all had children.
Oh my
They're all
goodness.
literally on chapter 17 at the same time. Together. So they have these discussions, so it takes stories and education and language out of the schools into the community.
Well,
and that's very powerful.
I just love how you've capsulized how it truly takes a village to raise children.
Yes.
So when we return, here's some powerful stories, more powerful stories that demonstrate how literacy can change a person's entire existence, just like that.